All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 291 of the KissFAQ Podcast. My window is open, I've got construction outside, and I don't care because it's San Francisco summer, 60 degrees. That's like 13 degrees Celsius or something like that. Welcome back to the show. Daniel Wees on the board. I didn't give your board names last time, and people were like, no. Which board member is he? And I'm like, well, these are the chairman of the board. 69th Blizzard, Ken.
Hello.
Yeah, Mark is almighty Mark.
Greetings.
Good to see you all. Thanks for joining me for another episode of our show. Anyone bought any Kiss shit this week? That's the most important question to start off the show.
I did. And I actually bought Kiss stuff this time and one non-Kiss thing, but I'll show you the two Kiss things I got. So, in collecting my further adding to my German Bellophon collecting, I got finally a Dress to Kill German one.
Cool.
And this one, as you notice, doesn't have the embossed around the edge. It is unembossed. Right? Yeah. And the other one that I got,
it's got the unadulterated logo. Unlike the original issue, the EMI Electrola, which had like Gothic logos, and the later Phonogram.
And like this one here, because I bought a German Elder, which has that.
Nice. Yeah.
And this one came with a German lyric sheet in it, with the lyrics, which was really interesting. I don't know if that was just somebody did that and put it in there, but it's kind of odd. I don't know. Should I pull it out and?
Yeah, do. Because there were some that came with a lyric insert, which are very neat, and then there were repros done by people who got them. And then, of course, there's like the difference between Austrian and German is like the Austrian, I think, has a big black panel on the back where they changed up the track listing. Can't remember off the top of my head. So there is a book about the Elder.
Well, that looks official.
Yeah, I don't know, actually. Yeah, that looks like a fan printout, but I'm not sure.
That's a nice job. Yeah.
And actually, is that folded?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think there was a fan club that you could send away for the lyrics.
Maybe this one here? Kiss song text or whatever it said in it.
It just means lyrics.
Yeah, okay. I think that just means lyrics. Maybe someone who collects German, memorabilia can fill us in on that. What does Mark have? What has he bought? Is it gold or is it, plastic?
And speaking of gold, this was my gold purchase. I was so happy that I got this. They had one only in the store. This is not Kiss, but you know how important this artist is to me. Frank Zappa. Hot Rats Sessions. So it has these are the kind of things that we were always clamoring Kiss to do. It has like 6 discs, and it goes through like the incarnation of the songs from like beginning, literally from the beginning, like when they were just piano pieces, and then they constructed them from there all the way to the final version. They even have like the 1984 remixed version of the album, which caused great fury amongst the Zappa fans because they hated how he remixed the whole album and put all kinds of ridiculous reverb and stuff on it. So they hated it, but they put it on here just for memento's sake. But it's really, really interesting. If you like hearing songs from their earliest versions to having people play on it that didn't appear on the final version even, it's really interesting. So I was very happy to get that. I don't usually... I do usually splurge for this kind of stuff, but it's only for certain people like, Zappa or King Crimson or, Kiss did something like that, I'd be on it.
I'm not bored anything this week, but I'm not bored anything, but I'm bidding on 2 things on the Swedish equivalent to eBay. But I think I need your advice. There's 2 books on there that I haven't read actually. Sherman's Black Diamond, I think it's called, and Gordon G, whatever his name.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
He has a book out there as well. So if I should pick one, I think it's called
Black
Kiss
Diamond.
and Tell. Black Diamond.
I like that.
I don't
Black
know.
Diamond.
Which Gordon book is it? Because he's had a few. Kiss and Tell More is garbage.
Kiss and Tell.
That's basically just emails of hate that he received after doing Kiss and Tell, and everyone calling him a liar. And then Ace put out his book and didn't sue Gordon, which kind of proved that everything Gordon said was actually true. Kiss and Tell, I mean, come on. He was there with Ace for a lot of things, and that's his story. So, again, he wasn't sued over it. I would say go for that. Black Diamond, was great back in the day. And he's got a 10th anniversary edition, which is really good as well. But if you've read anything online, wiki and all that, or magazines, I would say go for Kiss and Tell. Sorry, Dale.
Okay, we'll see next week which one I got.
Yeah. Ken, how about you?
Or get both. Nothing. Yeah. You got nothing.
Nothing.
What?
Well, okay. I did actually buy stuff. I bought a bunch of Japanese vinyl. I picked out what I wanted, and I put the rest up on eBay. So it's all up there. Go over to the FAQ for the link for that. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I'm calling it all entry-level stuff. For those of you who aren't Uber collectors who want every single premium that ought to have come with one of these Japanese releases, every single one of these auctions, I think, started at $5.99 or $9.99 with no reserves. And I undergraded the vinyl at VG, it is all used. It's not the pristine Japanese vinyl that's been kept under a futon in a, hermetically sealed piece of Tupperware. Oops. It is used vinyl, but, for those of you who are just after, maybe a copy of the originals and you don't care about the obi and all the masks and all that just because you want the cover, go for it. Again, very fair priced. The other thing I did I purchased two other things, didn't I? Yeah, number one was my ticket for the cruise after last week's episode.
Oh, boy.
And then I went and bought a Paul Stanley guitar for the cruise.
Wow.
Oh my.
Because when I went on the cruise last time, I did get the Paul Stanley art guitar. They do like 25 of them, custom Ibanez's. They're low-end Ibanez's. They're not anything I'm going to have out to play. They really are sort of the guitars. He signs them and puts them up on, I'll put them up on the wall eventually and figure out how I'm going to torture him with the amount of characters that are permitted this year. So, yeah, that's the stuff I bought.
So what happened?
Yeah. Why did it change your heart?
Last week, it didn't sound like you would be going to the show or to the cruise.
It was one of those things, really. After Kiss Cruise 8, I was conflicted. I felt having a rehearsal, basically, of a boring, come on, it's Kiss. I love every single one of the songs, but basically a boring set with no deep cuts was offensive. But the high points of that cruise were, of course, Bruce and Ace and everything else that went with it as well. And I was seeing Kiss perform on a cruise boat with 1,500 of my closest friends. It really is the Stardust Theater, a very intimate place and a very unique place to see the band perform. That there were the positives, but the biggest positive that came through, as I was watching my Facebook feed, and friends were booked. Not booked. Oh, good. You're a fucker anyway. Booked. And I know people freaked out when the announcement was made about the cutbacks or the changes, but I am a firm believer that there's a lot still to be determined about how this cruise is going to kind of shape up. But it really hit home with Ozzy's announcement over his Parkinson's or Parkinson's-related thing. When we start seeing people like Neil Peart, passing on, Ozzy having what is and will be a life-changing illness that will take him out of the game ultimately, to see friends, who are fighting cancer, waiting for transplants of various descriptions, it comes back to people. these are my people, this is my crowd. You know, I mean, I hate quoting Paul Stanley, especially from that album, but that was ultimately what it came down to. I saw a lot of people signing up for this who hadn't been on Kiss Cruise 8, many who had been, who I'd love to see again, many people who I'd love to meet for the first time in person and share a meal or a drink and just go and congregate once more in a very unique place. And again, going to Belize and Honduras. I'm not going to either of those places otherwise.
Yeah.
It just there was no sense of fear of missing out, because I've missed out on, 8 out of 10. And I was okay with missing out on them. But as we get to the end of the road, all of these little opportunities to get together with fellow fans become more and more important, because you don't know what the next time might be and whether some of those people are even going to be there. And you just never know. I mean, you don't know who has booked the cruise, who may not be there, because you just don't know. So that's why I booked the cruise. Kiss is part of it, but also very secondary to the relationships that I've had with many people over the past 25 or more years. So,
yeah.
Am I thrilled with the changes? No, I'm no more thrilled with, the changes that have been announced than Tommy Thayer was, on that podcast that he did. And
exactly.
And he's out in public talking about, not being convinced that the single show at the pool deck is the right thing to do. He thinks that the intimate Stardust show is the thing to do because it's important to people and it's intimate and it's special and it's fun. And he says that it's something that needs to be looked at. Now, that may be a political answer to a very popular question, but many people will echo those sentiments. I certainly do. I would much rather have 2 shows in the Stardust, one which I can attend and the other that I can kick back either in one of the broadcast places on the boat and watch with friends, or in the comfort of my cabin where I don't have 18 people jammed in like steerage class on the Titanic. To watch in the comfort of your own, what do they call it? They don't call it a cabin, stateroom. Which is anything but. Stateroom gives a completely false, kind of illusion of what you are in when you're on one of these boats. And so I did get a room.
Right.
I set myself a budget. And I said, if this room did not become available, I wasn't going one up. I was not going to go obstructed view with a deck, so that people would be outside my porthole smoking and carrying on when I sleep. I was not going to do a ocean view because that was absolutely pointless last time. I actually looked out the window once when I was in my stateroom, and that was when we were going into dock, and all there was a dock and tires, so made it so.
Wow.
The room became available, and what's funny? It's actually turned out cheaper than Kiss Cruise 8, so.
Well, that's good.
I'm
Probably should be, though, right?
Well, that's to be determined if there's only one Kiss show, one electric show. But again, we don't know the details.
Yeah, do you think, though, I'm curious about one thing that you just mentioned, that you said that, Tommy was saying that he wasn't very pleased with that. Do you think, now this is just, of course, a what if question for all of us here who are talking about this today. Do you think that his comments will have any weight? You think that maybe what he said might echo back to management and they maybe say, you know what, maybe you might be right. Let's do a show at the theater, but we're not going to announce it until we're out at sea, and I'll make it a big surprise for everybody when we're already out at sea?
I think it all depends on the reason why they made the changes. Is it because Paul and Gene don't have the energy? And Paul doesn't want to do it, Paul wants to be alone or something. I don't know. If that's the reason, they won't change. As long as they move tickets, they won't. But at times, actually, Tommy and Eric have convinced Gene and Paul to do some changes, at least in the show with tracks and so on. So he could, and I think at times Paul and Gene know that Tommy and Eric grew up as fans of the band and know probably more about how a Kiss fan feels and what is important to them. So they might listen a little bit to Tom. I don't think it's impossible.
Yeah.
Ken?
No, I agree. I mean, I hope it works out, and maybe they do put it back in the theater type situation versus outside one show on the deck where when you listen live outside like that, the sound just goes.
Yeah.
The sound's going to be a lot better inside. So I think they need to take that into consideration too.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing that I was kind of curious about too, I mean, I know for you, Julian, or maybe it doesn't have as much of a bearing because your collecting days are probably not as, you don't probably do it as much as you did maybe a few years back. But I know a lot of people had issue with some of these things that they cut from the Kruise as well, as far as the things that you get. Like there's now no longer a signed thing. There's like just some sort of printed signature now on stuff, and they're not letting people get stuff signed or something like that. I didn't get all of it, but I know that there's some things that collectors have got a little, panties in a knot a bit over.
Well, I don't know if it's fair to call it panties in a knot because, Kiss are their own enemies for kind of raising the expectations of fans by having allowed any of this. People who went to early vaults were able to get more signatures from Gene than those who went to later ones because people took advantage of it. I mean, even at that very first one, people had wheelbarrows basically full of their Kiss junk to get signed by Gene.
It wasn't me.
Whereas Jonathan and I were sitting next to my car saying, okay, what are the 2 items you're getting signed? Okay. These are our gotta get signed. Now, what else are you going to bring in case? But we had 2 items, completely per the rules, and anything else was, just opportunistic. And I'm not criticizing anyone for that. It simply is what it is. The signed items, I know what signing's like, and it is horrible. I don't know what signing's like on Kiss's level. That must be absolutely horrendous, water torture to sign that amount of things and to do quality. Because, again, the Kiss Cruise 8, the item that we had signed were this absolutely disgusting and pathetic cards, which I'm sure was greater in idea than it was in execution because they were just splotchy and looked terrible. And then Kiss Cruise 9, they did this wonderful signed piece with all the casino chips from the previous 9. I mean, talk about difference in, false equivalency, completely different. But I actually like the idea. Having thought about it, it makes a lot of sense to have a etched autographed item. I think Ken mentioned last week when we first talked about this, similar to the Creatures of the Night etched 45 that came out in, donkey's years ago. So I'm not against that. I understand the concept. And if it's special and it's something unique and something no one else is going to get, they'll be up on eBay.
Right. And people,
Didn't they do something like that, though, a couple of cruises back where they actually gave you guys an album as well, too? Wasn't that
2 albums. There was the singles kind of album, 12-inch. That one was a Rock and Roll All Night 1 year, and then another year they had the Creatures of the Night.
Did they do that for 9 or no?
No, they didn't. And,
red vinyl was on. The Creatures.
That would be so cool. Were they to do something like that for the cruisers as well? They did the Sirius XM. I don't know what the rights are. Again, you get into all the legal bullshit issues. It would be so cool for them to actually give the cruisers a vinyl release, again, unique to that. But again, all of that stuff is endless. What I'm not going on the cruise for, again, I don't give a shit about seeing Rat in this format. I love Rat. I was on board with Rat. I mean, I had Collage. I bought Rat in '99 when they were with Sony. I stuck with them. I had whatever that last album. I only listened to it once because I actually listened to Detonator more than I listened to anything that came afterwards. So I do like Rat. I've had EP. I've had the original Time Coast. I've got like 3 copies of the Time Coast EP on cassette up in a box over there. So I do like Rat. And, it's the 35th anniversary of Invasion of Your Privacy. privacy. Pardon me. You know, so they're a great band. Queensryche, fuck.
They were a great band.
No, not for me. I mean, I have greatest hits. I like Jet City Woman and Silent Lucidity. I'm like one of those fans.
No, really? I like Rage for Order and The Warning. I love that early stuff. That was what got me into them. But no, I mean, their singer
Queen
now
of the
is
Reich.
good.
Good song.
Yeah,
Queen of the
yeah.
The early stuff. Yeah.
What's
the
his
EP.
name? Todd something.
Todd LaTorn or something like that. I don't remember. But yeah, but he's a great singer, and he does the stuff fantastic. He sings it better than Jeff Tate does now. But you know, it's just now they're losing people again. Like they lost Scott Rockenfield. He's not drumming right now. I don't know what happened with him, but he's gone. When they lost Chris DeGarmo, that's really when it was like, oh boy, because he was one of their principal writers of the band. You know, all the great songs that were written for Operation Mindcrime and stuff like that was mainly him. So, but I love Queensryche. You know, if they ever got the original people back in, I'd be there. You know.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm gonna go. I will go and watch Queensryche. I'm not getting to say that.
Hey.
Queensryche?
Queensryche or.
Again, it's football, football and beer, and then doing a show. Not a good idea. I will go and watch them, just like I was forced to go and watch the Dead Daisies on Kiss Cruise 8. You know, I was told you have to go and see them. I said, I don't want to see them. No, you're going to go see them. And I was like, wow, they're freaking good. You know, so
that band. Talk about a strange band. It seems like it's run by some millionaire guy, and he just chooses the other members of the band. You know, Kurabe got left off, and he picked up Glenn Hughes.
Yeah.
And the guy is like a millionaire who wants to be a rock star, and he's the leader of the band. It's just so strange. I think they did it. It was a bad idea to drop Kurabe actually, because
he's a great singer.
He worked well for them.
I love Glenn Hughes. So
yeah, but it's a totally different band, you know.
Oh yeah, completely.
They're completely different
but
singers.
So was the original. So was the original Dead Daisies.
Yeah, but it was with Kurabe. They managed to do something with the band. I think they started to build like an audience and got a lot of good gigs. At least over here in Europe, I think they were at some of the bigger festivals. So we'll see what happens. Glenn Hughes, he does whatever he can for a buck these days. I saw him.
He's everywhere.
Up here in the middle of nowhere, playing for a few hundreds of people just a few years ago.
All right,
he did Black Country Communion too.
Yeah.
Let's kill off the Kruise talk. You know, Tommy's not sure about it. I'm going.
I do understand that you're going. I feel you, man.
I hope you have a great
almost
time,
the same
too.
feeling when you attend a Kiss concert these days. You know, you go because you like the band. You know, they won't sound as good as they once did, but the songs are still great. And you get all the fans and the feeling. And the feeling that it might be the last time is kind of, you know, bittersweet somehow. You want to be there. You don't want to miss out if it's the final gig, you know.
Plus, there are friends from Germany, Australia, Scandinavia, Scotland, all over the freaking world who are going to be there in one place. And you're going to be out there on that deck, and you're going to see all the flags. You're going to hear the South Americans showing everyone how it's done at a concert. You're going to, you know, see everyone representing all their generalizations you make about their nation, and it just being one big family united by a common language, music, the rock and roll of Kiss. I mean, all right, you know, go check out Tommy's interview on Backstage Access podcast. You know, he's primarily talking about his new Electric Blue Epiphone guitar, iridescent blue sparkle. He tells you a little bit about how that came together. Nice little Aerosmith story in there as well about the drum tech helping.
And he also stated that they switched up a couple songs in the set list for the upcoming second leg of the tour, Kiss tour. So I'm interested to find out what those songs are that they swapped out or brought in.
Love Theme from Kiss.
Right. Yeah,
Love Theme. Why not?
They've shaken it up a little bit. They've freshened it up, I think was the way he put it. So, check it out. Hear it firsthand. Don't hear us trying to remember, especially after 6 beers. Never a good idea. What else is new in YouTube land this week? Oh, I guess it's the Like a Bee to the Honey. Lordi. The most insane Finnish... I don't know what even genre to kind of place them in, doing a Jean Beauvoir, Paul Stanley collaboration. Yeah. It must date from the 1980s. I'm going to peg it around 86, 85, thereabouts.
Yeah.
Ken, what's your take on Mr. Lordi's ballad?
It was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting, unique. But I could hear in the chorus, Paul Stanley. I mean, that's obviously I could hear his writing style in that. And you know what? I think maybe Kiss should have done it really, and done it, of course, their way, the Kiss way, but done it on Asylum, and removed Radar, was it Radar for Love or whatever. I would have gotten rid of that and brought the other song on there instead. It is kind of corny song, but you know what? A lot of Kiss songs have corny lyrics and stuff.
What song are we talking about here?
A song done by Lordi and was written by Paul Stanley and Jean Beauvoir.
This is news to me, so
it was on the
you can check it out on YouTube. Yeah.
What's it called again, Julian? The name of the song?
Like a Bee to the Honey.
That's what it's called?
Yeah.
Go on, Mark. We'll circle back around to you.
Okay.
We'll go to Daniel next for his thoughts on it.
You would expect that.
I got it. Okay. I'll turn my volume down here and just listen to it really quick.
Do it. Yeah,
I just want to watch his face for the reaction.
We'll watch well.
But I think it was I kind of like the video, sort of, but that can be because I'm a fan of graphic novels. I read a lot of them, and it was kind of done in that vein, like a graphic novel. And I think it was kind of a cool theme. They turned the Paul Stanley lyrics around somewhat, because this video is actually about a stalker and a female stalker as well. I think it shows a lot of humor that Lordi has shown before. If you remember, they had a big hit over here in Europe with a song called Hard Rock Hallelujah. I don't know if you heard that one 10 years ago. And they made a real cool video for that one that was reminiscent of Twisted Sister videos in the 80s. So they kind of like paying homage to the 80s band. But I think it was fun to hear. And Mark is rocking out.
Mark is digging it.
Watching on YouTube. But I think it's kind of cool to hear someone doing a song now that is so clearly written in the 80s. I think it was kind of fun.
Oh yeah,
and it's kind of similar to the other stuff that Paul Stanley left off the albums, like When Two Hearts Collide and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's okay thing, kind of the chorus stays with you a bit, as it does most of the time when Paul Stanley writes stuff. So kind of fun.
It
doesn't end well.
I've blanked it out completely because I'm just hoping that a reference track actually starts circulating of Paul singing this, because then I think we'll get a way better kind of interpretation of what was originally intended. Because you know what? I think Lordi's vocals sucked.
Yeah, he's not very good at it.
That is totally outside of his style for the material that he sings. It was uncomfortable. I mean, power to him for shaking it up and doing something outside of his wheelhouse, but it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work on any kind of artistic level. So I'm just hoping that Paul gave him a tape and said, here's my demo, and that starts circulating so that Kiss collectors can be happy and actually hear how it should sound.
Yeah, but the idea is so cool. If other bands could pick up all those old demos, like When Two Hearts Collide and stuff like that, and do new songs using the demos, I would love it. Thumbs down from Mark. Yeah.
I think
cool idea.
I agree. I mean, well, who's playing the sax?
I have no idea. Who? Tommy?
No, what's his name? Jesus.
Clarence.
No.
Clemens?
No.
Guy from the East Street Band?
Hanoi Rocks. What's his
Oh,
name?
Michael
Monroe.
Yeah,
Michael Monroe, yeah.
I believe so, no?
The Finnish guy.
Yeah. So, it's got all kind of those sorts of bits and pieces. I mean, it's garbage, but...
Yeah. But it's more, I'm not so sure, is it like a joke or is it serious? I don't know.
Well, it's
It
Lordi.
was probably originally serious.
Somewhere in
Okay.
between.
Imagine.
I listened to it, and it's definitely very 80s. Very 80s.
Yes.
The sax solo was the biggest shock of the whole thing to me. I think I almost dropped the phone when it started. But it's odd hearing him sing it. I could totally hear Paul singing it, like back in the day, for sure. But I'll tell you this. I don't think it's a joke. You know why? If you go and look up on YouTube and go like Lordi Kiss covers, there's a lot of songs Lordi has done by Kiss. God of Thunder, She's So European. They've done all kinds of songs from Kiss. So
I actually think they have
they're,
had Bruce on 1 or 2 tracks back in the day.
Yeah, because it shows them live with some Kiss tribute band, and Lordi went up there and sang some stuff. So I mean, obviously, Kiss is very important to this guy, right? So. I don't think it's a joke. I think it's, maybe he thought he was going to make some big impact with this fantastic song.
So this is the Blood Type R of 2020. That was another song that Paul wrote that got farmed out to Dutch bands and all over the place. And then, what was it, Click 5, I think, did one as well. So, all right. I don't think that was overwhelmingly positive response to that new Paul Stanley collaboration, but there you go. Let's talk about the official A&E produced 2-hour biography documentary. Obviously, that's been getting a lot of kind of debate about it, and I think it's going to be very difficult to please diehard fans with anything because they think they know everything already. You don't. But I guess what would be some of the key things? It's going to be a very condensed history. It's going to that's my expectation anyway. It's going to focus on kind of the big ticket items in the band's history. What do you think are some of the most important things that have to be in there? And what would be some of the things that you would be mortally offended if they were omitted?
Well, I think the things that should be there, and I'd be horrified if were omitted, are pretty much the same things in my eyes. Some of them, like I think they'd have to talk about the hiring of Eric Carr. I think they have to talk about that, and I think it'll be a great insult if they don't talk about his passing. If they don't cover any of that, I think that would be a great shame. I know that a lot of people might say, well, they should just focus on the original 4. But I think Eric Carr played a huge part in this band. He was with them for a very, very long time, and some say that his energy and fire helped get them through some of those rough times too, right? So I think that that's one of the things for sure that they should cover. And I think one of the things that they should cover, and I'm very sure they will, which is very stellar, is the involvement of Sean Delaney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe that I don't know who they are interviewing for this piece, but that's the most important thing, that they pick good interviewees. If they get people on there that hasn't said it 1,000 times before. But I'm dreading that it will be focused mostly on Paul and Gene's version of what Kiss is, and another one of those, unfortunately. And that will be nothing new for us. It will be fun to watch one time, and then you will forget about it. I was hoping more for them to do something more like Motley Crue did with, trying to do something a little bit different and not be too late on that train, They're always a year or two after everybody else. But if they do it now, they are not too far behind. So they could actually create a buzz. I don't see how this one will do anything for Kiss, really, if they don't, stick their necks out and bring in some people who actually can say something that might be a bit, negative, bad decisions that the band made. Did they treat people bad? Stuff like that. But if we get a cleaned up version from Paul and Gene, it won't do anything for me, and not for you guys either.
Yeah.
No, the problem is Neil Bogart is dead. Bill O'Connor is dead. Sean Delaney is dead. Larry Harris is dead. You know,
but there's a lot of guys around there. You know, the road crew and
a lot of the road crew seems to be persona non grata. I mean, J.R. Smalling.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's what I mean. That's my whole point. You know,
the band Joyce Trabulus Bogart.
We wanted to create the band we never saw on stage. I bet you $1,000 they will say that in that.
It's probably. I mean, it's going to be a Kiss sanction thing. I mean, obviously, you wanted
don't get your hopes too high.
Yeah, you wanted the best. You got the best. Documentary got killed off because I believe it didn't show Gene and Paul in that great of a light. Therefore, you know, it was shelved, I guess. In this case, with it being supposedly around 2 hours, I said that's not long enough to do their whole career. I mean, they're going to gloss over a lot of stuff if they're really going to go from the beginning.
2 hours? That's it?
Yeah, beginning to end. Supposedly, it's been stated that it's going to be the whole career. So you're obviously going to gloss over a lot of stuff. So the key things you got to have in there. Okay, the meeting of Gene and Paul, Neil Bogart at their, or not Neil Bogart, but Bill O'Coin at their first show, the signing. I guess coming up with the name Kiss, coming up with the makeup, that part of those things. Then fast forward a little bit, and you get to Alive. You know, they're touring. No, nothing's going on good here. So they talk about Alive, which finally made them what they are, and then going into the extremes of, and then maybe they'll have to talk about Destroyer. The Beth being the hit single deal.
Right, but Stan Penridge is dead. Peter Criss probably wouldn't be involved because they're not going to treat Peter and Ace with respect and give them any control over how they appear. And Bob Ezrin, well, let's not talk about Bob Ezrin.
But I think it's a shame.
It's just too much. It's just too much
that's just it. There's too many things to put in there, and really these guys, the directors and people like Paul, are going to want to just put all the things that make them look good, the events that they think are important to the band, which will be probably different than what a lot of us will think are important moments in the band.
Yeah, they'll gloss over the 80s most likely too. I mean,
yeah, as they always do.
Yeah, Eric Carr's you're not getting far enough into Eric Carr's death, you know, in 2 hours. But then again, you've got Eddie Kramer, who can't remember that Bob Kulick, you know, didn't perform on Love Gun, you know.
But I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that Gene and Paul are so afraid to you know, get any negativity. We all know that Gene was a pig for decades, that he slept around with everybody. Didn't anything. And we all know about Paul's problems being the way he is. You only have to, you know, look at his Twitter and see a few quotes from him and listen to a few interviews, and you get to know him pretty well. As you know, he's not the cool rock and roll guy that we all thought in the 80s. Unfortunately, he's just an ordinary man as the rest of us. But I think they would get more. You know, people would maybe respect them more if they could, you know, go a little bit deeper into the negative sides of Kiss, because there sure as hell are a lot of negativity that you know, goes along with the band, and it makes the documentary more dynamic if you have a few good things and a few bad things. Otherwise, it's just like you know, a celebration to the band, and
it's just a yes piece.
Yeah, a yes piece. And, you know, if you read Kiss and Tell, you just pick a few things from Kiss and Sell, and you pick a few things from that book, and that's really interesting that you would like to hear more about. You know, when they deal with that guy in Argentina trying to book the tour for South America. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff there. Never going to show up in an unofficial movie, unfortunately.
No, because you can't have Vinny in either because of the problems that
No?
causes. So you can't have Stephen Coronel. I mean, you can have Marty Cohen, who was there as well, but is not like a known name to most Kiss fans. Regardless of having interviews out there with him for many years, everyone always thinks Stephen Coronel. You're missing Brooke, who, I mean, he's dead.
Yeah.
It's just too late. And Kenny Kerner, dead.
Yeah.
Damn it! I mean, it's too little, too late. So it really would be better simply to do something like The Dirt, and that's take and build around a particular kind of scene. Knife fights with Aerosmith, getting kicked off the tour with Origins, fights or showing up late for gigs and Steppenwolf, 74. I mean, maybe keep it to 74. Use the original Kiss crew and Moose's hand, blowing that up, setting Black Oak, Arkansas's backdrop on fire with the exploding drumsticks, all those little things, condense it into one, and then Neil Bogart comes out and says, you guys are going back into the studio, and end it on them fucking around with Rock and Roll All Night in the studio with that demo that they did in January 1975. Because everything else, you just can't portray without Stan, without Peter and Ace being involved with the same sort of control over their narrative that Gene and Paul are going to have over theirs. And yeah, sure, the victors write history, and Gene and Paul are the victors in the war for Kiss because they stayed with the band and never left. That's understandable. And Peter and Ace can never expect to have that sort of power. But if you're not going to represent all four of the original opinions, you can't show Peter working with Gene and Paul in late 72, going into that Don Ellis audition or showcase, where Peter Criss's brother threw up over the shoot. You can't do that without Peter being involved and having control over that. It's just so sad. I mean, we've really lost a lot of things, and they can put out something and it'll be saccharine, it'll be PG rated, whereas The Dirt was R. And that makes a big difference.
This is, I assume, made for TV, right? The A&E network. So, and even with that, we're talking 2 hours with commercials. It's really not 2 hours. Probably more like an hour and 40 minutes, or something like that.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. I mean, considering that I have a really fantastic biography documentary on Yes, and that thing was like 3 hours and 25 minutes long, no commercials, nothing. And that they had a pretty lengthy career too, but I mean, just hearing that it's only 2 hours with commercials, they're not going to cover a lot at all. I mean, Julian's right, they're better off to maybe just focus on a portion of their career if they're going to make it that little, as far as time,
getting their gold awards, live awards handed to them at on stage,
end it there,
for a live, and end it there, right?
Yeah, but think about the stories we've been talking about
to Madison Square Garden 77 or something.
Yeah, they could do that.
How far they go is kind of irrelevant. Get all those scenes in, them traveling the country in a station wagon, getting snowed in, the crew, crashing trucks, into snow berms, Texas with the freak show, and some of the gay overtones that they went through because of their costumes and all that. Partying with Rush, and some of the opening acts, the acts that they worked well with, and the acts like Aerosmith and Argent and all those that they just completely clashed with, and blowing other bands off the stage. There are so many different scenes that you can kind of tie together. That will kind of make the geek happy, but also portray all the greatness, the Keishi kite fly, playing to 40 to 100,000 people in 1974, all the things that legends are made of. Redo the Tootie Fields scene, Gene trying to be all innocent. Yeah.
On Michael Douglas show, right? Yeah.
all that stuff is great, but it's also somewhat easy. Rather than relying on Gene and Paul to tell you about this is the party line of how something happens, because we're all guilty of it here, of saying, well, that's like the party line, that's the bullshit version, because it doesn't represent everything else, the other opinions.
Yeah, well, the documentary is obviously going to be probably video and interviews, people talking over the scenes that you're seeing on the screen that were
extreme
recorded
type,
and photos and stuff like that. I know there's also a biopic in the work too. So that's a whole nother story about what are they going to do with that. I mean, we've looked at Queen and Motley Crue and Elton John, those movies. They seem to have done pretty well for the most part. They could probably pull off some kind of Kiss biopic, and of course, yes, they're going to skip a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so we'll just wait and see, because again, all these biopics that have been out there, there's probably too many that you start getting less
tired
returns. Of it. Well, people get tired of it. You're like, okay, look how badly Rocket Man did. Bohemian did well, but it was highly inaccurate. Rocket Man kind of got savaged. Because where's the Bowie one? Has there been one?
A biopic Bowie? I don't think so.
There was just a thing about Ronson, I think. But not about Bowie. There's been tons of ones done in the UK, right? That they've done where they've had, Sound and Vision. One was called. Another one was like focused on the beginning to like Aladdin Sane. They've never done a complete one yet of him, so they really need to do one.
Probably will.
Not complete. Just do Ziggy.
Yeah, but they did a lot of good stuff earlier. Like the Doors film was real good with.
That's a good biopic.
Jim Morrison played by
Val Kilmer.
Yeah, Val Kilmer.
Yes,
Val Kilmer.
That was great.
I'm sorry, I love that movie. One of my.
That's a great
one.
That's right up there for me with Spinal Tap. That says a lot.
Spinal Tap, the best biopic ever.
Yes, it's awesome.
All right, let's move on and do a couple of our final parts of this discussion today. And again, I was planning on doing a structured kind of episode this week, but I just did not have the time, which kind of reminds me that we're talking about documentaries about the band. Do go and check out Podcast. There were a lot of episodes towards the end of last year that were very deep dives into Wicked Lester. There's going to be more of that sort of thing this year, hopefully.
Cool.
There was an episode that I partnered with them on Prehistory on Peter Criss, which was just narrative driven. There is a Gene Simmons one that is, kind of nearly ready to go, and who knows when we will get that all finalized. But, there's a lot of that sort of thing being done, but it's unofficial, and it's not from the donkey's mouth, from the horse's mouth, the jackass's mouth. It's from the jackass's mouth if it's me. There you go. All right, let's move into these other parts. Paul wishing Ozzy well after his Parkinson's diagnosis or disclosure. And I guess the health of our rock stars and appreciating today. How does this kind of affect each one of you and your fandom when we see Neil Peart dying? We see Paul obviously offering, people are like, what? Commenting on Paul offering, support to a fellow aged rock star. I mean, it's like, what, are you shocked? We're all human here. But how does it affect you as you're going down the end of the road or going down your road of life, whichever it may be, that we're seeing more and more of our kind of rockers starting to be afflicted with their age? Look at Joey Kramer, another great example just this past week, being shut out of the band because of physical issues. I'm sure there's a lot that we don't know that's in the background, but the end result is basically, after 50 years of the band, again, a very unique drummer, just being told you're not good enough emotionally or physically to be up there. Ozzy, I don't think anyone's shocked by Parkinson's with Ozzy. Or Parkinson's related illness. It's not Parkinson's per se. Daniel, your thoughts on mortality?
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I mean, it's Father Time gets us all. That's just the way it is, and it makes me feel old when all my old heroes are getting up there in age. I think it's sad, but it's you can't avoid it. So and that Oz is still alive. That's the big thing. If you read a little bit about what he's been doing, so he's living on borrowed time, so to speak. But it makes me think of the artists that broke through in the 90s that aren't with us, that didn't get the chance to get old. You know, when I grew up, when I was about 15, grunge really hit hard over here, and you got Nirvana, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, and later on those new metal bands. And if you look at those bands, they never got the chance to become, you know, veterans, because all the singers died like between, you know, 27 and 45 years of age. After that, they were all dead, you know. Scott Weiland died not too long ago. And you had
Chris Cornell,
of course, Kurt Cobain, and what's the name of the Soundgarden?
Chris Cornell.
Chris Cornell, and Chester Bennington later on. So it made me think of them, and they never really got the chance to even get old. So I guess I'm accepting it. You know, they are old. That's just the way it is. But it's sad.
Yeah, I don't think anything changes it. You know, come on, Ozzy, 71, and you know, it's something like that. Come on, I mean, biting the heads off bats, snorting ants, you know, and everything else that he did in his life. And Keith Richards will still be there after everyone else is dead.
He's like a cockroach of rock and roll.
But I also very much agree with Daniel, and none of those guys other than Cobain affected me, because I wasn't into any of those other bands. I loved Nirvana. The one who affected me the most was Michael Hutchence when he died. I mean, that was kind of my holy shit moments. Age is okay. You know, what was that folk artist, David Otney, who died on stage this week?
Yeah.
He was performing a set with his acoustic, with a colleague, and he looked up at the microphone and just said, "I'm sorry," put his head down, and was dead. Didn't fall off the chair.
That's the way to go.
Stone cold dead performing without being shot on stage like Dimebag. You know, what a way to go. You know, for Paul Stanley, who sung, you know, kicking and screaming from the stage, I mean, only the screaming's coming true in terms of that equation. Ken, what are your thoughts on this? You know, again, we talked last week, we mentioned the Linda Ronstadt documentary that's been airing in the States, a very representative one as well. Same with Glenn Campbell, who aired last year.
Yeah, Glenn Campbell. I saw that one too. Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, we don't expect our heroes to still actually be performing, and it's kind of like if you, I guess sometimes a parent outlives their child. It's the same kind of thing in a way. It's just you don't expect that. You know, you expect your heroes to be there forever. I guess they'll be. You know, Kiss is a band that, you know, I've loved forever, and I just it's hard to think of, you know, any of them passing, really. You just always think it's going to be there. But having said that, there's, for instance, I think of it in the reverse way. It's like, you know what, there's a lot of these artists that are still performing now, and I need to see them before I go, you know, or before they go, because I can go too. So for instance, last year I saw, Blondie. That was one of a bucket list thing for me. I had never seen Blondie. I always wanted to see Blondie back when she was younger, the band, but finally did, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and so I'm sure there's going to be some other ones like that I'll want to see. I guess the Kiss thing is more of a greedy thing. I just want to see them another time, one more time, kind of thing, because either they're going to stop, or someone's going to die, or I'm going to die, or who knows what's going to happen. It's a morbid thought.
Or we're all going to get blown up.
Or a nuclear bomb's going to get hit by a bomb.
We're going to piss off someone who actually hit a target.
Yeah. So it's tough, but it's just sad to see that. I mean, I even back when, for instance, I remember the day. I can still remember the day Elvis Presley died. Clearly, I remember it. Mm. I clearly remember John Lennon's death and time of death, which was horrible.
Lennon, no,
it was horrible. It was a horrible thing. And even Karen Carpenter of the Carpenters, which was died at like 32 or whatever, from anorexia, which is another thing that can happen, so it's just a tough thing. When you kind of get attached to these artists and their music through fandom, I guess. But it's still, I don't know, it's a sad thing to think about.
They live on. The artists at least.
They live on through their work.
Live on forever. I remember Roy Orbison dying, and I can hear his voice in my head anytime I want. I can hear that voice, and it nearly always brings a tear to my eye. Johnny Cash. We could just go down the list. I mean, let's get some Canadians in on this, Mark.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, a lot of what you guys said, I can echo. Like, just now, the passing of Neil Peart really, really hit me hard, like very hard. I mean, this is a band that I grew up with, like literally. Like, they were my first real big band that I got into when I was very young. And they were my first concerts I went to when I was like 11 years old. And, I've never missed a Rush concert from that time period. I got everything that they ever did on record, and, how it is with that. And, but what really shocked me with that was that it wasn't expected. Like when people start hitting the 70s and stuff like that, okay, any time now something could happen. But Neil was still in his 60s too. I wasn't expecting, and he was a guy who, used to cycle like crazy. He went through a bicycle tour of Africa. He would do all kinds of, motorcycle tours when he was on tour with Rush and stuff like that. So he tried to keep himself in tip-top shape. And then to hear that, he got ill and died of cancer. I mean, it was brain cancer, so that didn't really have too much to do with his physical health, I don't think. But, the thing that surprised me with that, to a point, because if you know Rush as well as the Rush fans that are diehard do, they're a very private people. Neil Peart especially. He had 3 years of battling this disease that nobody knew about. Like, every Rush fan I ever know never even had a clue that he was sick for that long. They kept it under wraps for quite a long time, and very well too. There wasn't even a rumor circulating about that he was ill. But it really bothered me because, when you're younger, and those guys were younger too, like back in the day, of course, obviously, like when I was younger, you never thought that they were going to be going anytime soon. And when people started going, like Bowie and now Neil, and Lemmy's gone now and stuff like that, you start going, oh boy, like, you're starting to realize your age, just like Daniel said, right? You're starting to understand your own mortality at this point because of that. And that's the thing that kind of, makes it difficult as well, because that eventually your hourglass is going to run out of sand as well, right? When that'll happen, who knows? And, it's not always going to be just from old age. It could be from anything. Tomorrow I could get into a car accident and that'll be the end of it, right? who knows, right? I mean, I've survived one pretty horrific car accident, so I was lucky with that, right? That's when I was 19 years old too. So, I flipped my mother's car like 3 times over into a farmer's field. Like,
Wow.
Let's put it this way: when I came out of the car, the lady who pulled her car over to come and see if I was okay, she literally dropped to her knees and almost fainted when she saw me come out. I thought that she was looking at something else. I looked back to see if she was seeing something. She just was like in shock that I came out of the car because it was totally mangled, like smashed into 10,000 pieces. Again, stupidity on my part, trying to rush home in a rainstorm, and then, you make a stupid mistake and bam, that's it, right? So you never know when these things can happen, and this kind of circles back to a comment that Julian made earlier about why he's going to the cruise. You never know when something's going to happen. You never know when some of your friends who you never had a chance to meet up with, now's your chance to meet up with them. Yeah, go ahead and do it. Who cares if the cruise isn't going to be as good as you think it is, but the people that you want to meet up there and talk to, they're going to be there. So that's just as good a reason to go as any reason to go. So, I think of one thing this makes people do is really reanalyze their own life and what's important to them and what they think they need to do to make their life a happier one while we're still here on the planet.
Maybe we should give a shout out to our pod members that have had a few health scares lately. I think both Alex and Lonnie has had a bit of trouble, but I think they're okay now, if I got it right.
Yeah, and
but
anyone who's listening to the show who's had a health challenge, enjoy today, enjoy the moment, enjoy the opportunities that you are able to do. And obviously, not everyone can afford to go on the cruise because it's horrendously expensive. Not everyone can travel to go and see a Vinnie Vincent private performance or interview. Not everyone can go to even a Kiss show. It really is a matter of making the best of what you can with the resources that you have. Make the Facebook count, make the Instagram count, make the Twitter or the KissFAQ count, make the interaction on the shows of other podcasts that you listen to with people whose names you might recognize count. And again, that's going to be one of the things that I try and do on this year's cruise. I'm going to do it's unsanctioned, it'll be unofficial, but I'm going to try and do a gathering of KissFAQ people on the boat that we all get together and raise our glasses.
Nice.
Whether it's Perrier, water, vodka, schnapps, Jaeger shots. It'll be just a way for us all to get together and just celebrate that moment, and then we can get back to insulting one another. No, I mean, for the most part, real fans do not insult each other. Real fans want to debate and get worked up, but they won't be insulting you and swearing at you and being offensive. They'll be passionate, and there is a very thick line between the two. So, I just wanted to say one more thing about past rock stars. Obviously, Phil Lynott, Gord Downey. Come on, another Canadian, Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah.
The list is endless and getting longer, but so is it with the roll call of everyone else who's taken a breath. So let's leave that there this week. That is more than enough food for thought. Daniel, Ken, Mark, thank you for joining me today to discuss these various topics. And we want to hear what you have to say about any of this. You don't have to talk about everything we've talked about. Just give us your thoughts on something that maybe stood out for you. Whether you want to comment on YouTube or on iTunes, on the FAQ, leave your feedback, leave your thoughts, and we'd love to just have that conversation with you as well. So for now, from us all, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.